I have asked one of our veterans to testify this morning, and I'm going to invite forward now Charlie Gray, who's still sitting there. Do you know that you're talking this morning? Yes. Can you come forward to do so, or are you just going to sit there in your pew? So Charlie Gray is 99 years old already. In 2 weeks. He will be 99 in 2 weeks. And he is one of our World War II veterans who is still alive to tell the story. And so we are delighted this morning to hear his story. Three minutes. 5 minutes. Why, are you going to tell us the entire story of your life?
Yeah, the whole story, yeah. All right, good morning. My name is Charlie. Thursday I found out about this. Pat called me, my daughter, and I typed up a whole story, and then I found out my printer wouldn't work. So I hand-written a whole bunch of little notes. And it's really about war, how war has affected me personally. And it goes back to school years when I lived in Canada at the time. And Canada was part of England, of course, at the time. And we studied current events. And we all had scrapbooks, and we cut pieces of stories out of the newspapers and pasted them down, so that war was very important, not important, but it was part of our daily life. When I was 16 years old, I took a job with the RAF, which is Royal Air Force, which is Canada, and my job was supplying them with whatever they needed. They'd send a requisition, and it might be a gross of number 4 aluminum screws, or it might be an aircraft engine. Whatever it was my job to get it to them. The next year, when I was 17, I moved to Boston area, where my father lived, and got a job with the Navy Yard. My father and mother lived in 2 different countries, but that's another whole story that we won't get into now. That was in 1943, and my job at the Navy Yard was an electrician helper, and my job was to feed cables through the bulkheads and seal them up so that water wouldn't go through. Then I joined the Navy at 17 and a half because I could, and I went to boot camp at Newport, Rhode Island, and that was 43, and spent months there. I'm not sure how long it was, and then we were put on a train to Newport News, Virginia, and there we boarded a LST, which is an enormous, great big landing ship tank, LST. And it was, the troops were crowded into it, and we sailed across the Atlantic, and we heard later that it was the largest convoy to ever go across the Atlantic. We could see destroyer escorts and destroyers and merchant ships all around us, and we were going very slow, 4 knots, which was very slow. So then we landed in Oran, Algiers, which was a culture shock. I mean, come on. I had a little kid from Canada. I'm in a North African country. Just the way the people dressed was something that I've never seen before, never experienced before. And that's where I got my first battle star. I was still 17 years old, but because we were in a very active war zone, we were all given battle stars on our European campaign ribbons. Then they put me on a PT boat to Sardinia. I didn't know I was going to Sardinia, but a PT boat, if you don't know, it's a wooden boat made of plywood. It's not a small boat, it's quite large. And the officers that ran it bragged that they had twin 16-cylinder Packard motors to run it, and they didn't run it at full speed because they had to make sure it was an overnight trip under the cover of darkness, of course, because we had to go from North Africa to the northern island in Sardinia. And I'm not sure if my 18th birthday was on the PT boat or after I boarded the ship. So I'm not sure of that, but it was very close. So I boarded a ship called the US Pumper. And US Pumper, our job, because we were small, only 500,000 gallons, we offloaded from the big seagoing tankers to bring them into small ports where our airports were. So, and that's what we did over and over and over again. And one of our airports was in Corsica, and we went up to Corsica many times under the cover of darkness. And then we went to many places under the cover of darkness because we found out later that 2 of our sister ships did not survive the war. And that's when I was on that ship, that's when I got my 2nd and 3rd battle star because we were on an active war zone at all times. The war began to...
You knocked it away from yourself.
The war began to end, but we didn't know it, of course. Nobody told us anything. And our ship went to Bizerte in North Africa, and where it was recommissioned and given to the French Navy. I'm not sure why, but they did. And then we flew to Naples. A bunch of us flew to Naples on a DC-3, which is a plane that's still around today. Not that plane, but the DC-3 is still around today. It was kind of like a workhorse. It was the plane we flew in was a mail plane, so there were no seats. It was just wooden benches with seat belts. So we landed in Naples, and I got a great job in Naples. I was in commissary, and our job was to supply the ships coming in with food they needed. So that was nice. And then, because it was a very easy job, and because we had our commander was what we call a 90-day wonder. He was an officer because he was a college person. So, and he was very good to us. And he had a meeting with us one day, and he said, "I have no idea what you're doing, but keep doing it and don't get me in trouble, and I won't get you in trouble." So that worked out fine. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. So, yes, I worked in Naples. Yes. Then I was able to get an R&R, rest and recreation, and I went to the airport and got a mail plane to Rome. And it so happened that when I was in Rome, VE Day happened, victory over Europe happened, and the Pope, because I was in Rome, the Pope put out a message to all of the Allied personnel to come to the Vatican and he would bless us. I was blessed by the Pope.
Of course you were.
Huh? Where am I? I lost myself. Then I was able to take another R&R to the French Riviera on a low-flying DC-3 because it was an old plane with the windows all knocked out. It was just an old freight train that they carried mail in, and we were flying so low that the pilot said, "Look up." Can you imagine this? We were flying so low through the Alps, he said, "Look up." And we could see old ruins of castles and monasteries and buildings. We were below because we couldn't get high because of the windows were all knocked. I don't know why they were all knocked out. Anyway, so I complained to my boss that the war was over by then, of course, and we were still stuck in Naples because there were 9 million of us had to be discharged. But I complained that I wanted to get home to complete my education, and he was able to get me on a merchant ship as a crew member, and I came home to Virginia, and that's my story.